Welcome to another episode of the brand called You. Today I have a very, very accomplished lady, Arti Kochhar, with me. Arti, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Arti is the executive director of BNI Gurgaon. She's a coach and a mentor, and she works on organizational behavior change and transformation. Arti, tell me a little bit about your early life.
Actually, I've had a very interesting early life. I grew up in the tea gardens of Assam.
Okay.
So, a very active life filled with animals, nature,
Wonderful.
and lots of adventure.
Okay.
Lots of adventure. So, I come from a family which is very, full of, they do things with wildlife, nature, environmental activities and that. So, we had a brilliant early life.
Okay.
Got married pretty early. Thought I'd get back to studies once, things settled out. But as life went on, motherhood happened, and that became my focus. I have two wonderful young boys. And, but as we, as you dabbled in a lot of things, as one does when you are young. And it was about 15 years back when one of my sons actually asked me, so Mom, we're going to study and go and lead our own lives. What are you going to do with yours?
Yeah.
And that's when I sort of
Started thinking,
okay, I need to refocus and get back
Correct.
into life.
Correct.
And that's what I did.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So let's talk of BNI.
BNI actually stands for Business Network International.
Okay.
BNI is, the Be Now Inspired is my company name.
Is your okay?
But it's all about Business Network International,
Business Network International. Okay.
which is a 35-year-old organization across the world. It was started in the US by Dr. Ivan Meisner, and its focus is on helping entrepreneurs to actually build their own business further. Because the easiest way for people to get business is through reference.
Correct.
Is like if I refer you want to pick up something, you're probably going to ask people around you, maybe whether it's a phone or anything. Who do I, can you give me a
Correct.
some kind of reference? And
Correct.
so using that simple concept, he created a platform called Business Network International,
Okay.
and it's now across 74 countries.
Wow.
We have more than 270,000 people across the world. And in BNI Gurgaon, we have 1,150 members.
Wow.
And these are entrepreneurs from consultants, single point entrepreneurs, to people running large organizations employing close to 2,000 people. So it's a huge range.
Yeah.
And it's the diversity. So you have a small business owner, medium-sized business owner, and all kinds of businesses.
So there's incredible networking that people are doing.
Absolutely. But it's not over the years what we found, because BNI Gurgaon has been there for now 9 years. In India, it's been 14 years. But we found it's not just the business which happens in this structure.
Correct.
It's a lot of personal support.
Okay.
Life support. People have had, say, medical emergencies, they need help. People have had business emergencies, they need help. For an entrepreneur, it's pretty lonely on the top.
Correct.
Right? You've been through that, you know how it is. You don't know who to talk to.
Correct.
And you find that support group here.
Correct.
So apart from business, a lot of brilliant relationships are formed. A lot of good things happen. People have been able to even grow out into new spheres, go into new areas, which they never thought they could do, because they found somebody who can help.
I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a very powerful support system a good network can offer to every individual, because
That's right.
we are creatures of social networks.
Absolutely.
But tell me a little bit more about BNI. What kind of work are you doing, and how does one become a member?
All right. So actually, I joined BNI as a member,
Okay.
and that's how I started my journey. I love the concept. It's based on a philosophy of giver's gain,
Correct.
right? So you do things for people, that somebody will do something good for you. It's our old tradition of
Correct.
karma,
Correct.
right?
Absolutely.
You do good, good comes back to you. So I joined it as a member, and at the point where they needed somebody to take on the Gurgaon network and take it forward. Me, from being a behavioral consultant in organizational development, just working with the corporate, I found this a beautiful transition.
Okay.
Because here again, I'm working with people,
Mm-hmm.
I'm coaching, I'm guiding, I'm learning.
Wonderful.
That's the most amazing thing. I think for me, the journey has been absolutely fabulous in terms of the amount of learning I've had.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that really works for BNI is the diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have different kinds of people, different kinds of businesses, different age groups. And of course, we have a great gender balance too.
Correct.
Right? So I'm proud to say that we have at least 25 to 30% women entrepreneurs at any given time, always in BNI Gurgaon. And you see, business
And
knows
how
no
does-
gender, right?
Absolutely.
Business knows no
knows
gender.
Absolutely.
So this is again a safe place for members, especially for women entrepreneurs, to do business.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So how does one join? It's you get invited to a meeting. It has to be through an invitation because we believe in having people who we trust come into the room.
Correct.
And you come, you see it. If it is, once you see how the meeting works and what we do, if that's something that works for you, you have the freedom to take a membership.
I can appreciate this because I've been a YPO member for the last 27 years.
Right.
And these networks are very powerful.
Very powerful. They help you reach places that you never thought would possibly be possible.
I agree. So you worked a lot with entrepreneurs.
Right.
First as an organizational consultant and now as BNI. And a lot of startup entrepreneurs watch our show.
Right.
What, in your experience, are some of the basic mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make?
Oh, okay. So I'm not the best business coach, but I can tell you that it's important to get your structure into place.
Correct.
And it's important to have the culture. Because ultimately, it's culture which determines how far you're going to go.
Correct.
So what is it that you're coming with, and where is it that you want to go? I think another mistake an entrepreneur makes is not being focused on what their vision and their goal is. They need to get clarity on that. They need to set a brilliant culture in their organization. As Herb Kohler said of Southwest Airlines, and I truly, truly believe that, he says culture is what you do when no one is looking. Right? So what is it that you're setting up your business with, your organization with? The next step comes about getting the right people on. And I think that's a challenge every entrepreneur faces. How do you identify the right people? How do you get them on board? And, how do you take that forward? So that, and then it comes to delegation.
Absolutely.
Of course, we always I think one of the things of entrepreneurs, we always think we know best and we can do it better than anybody else, right?
Very interesting. As a good organizational consultant, you've given me three very interesting words: culture, people, and delegation.
Yes.
So let me come to culture.
Okay.
I've often been asked this question: how does a young startup entrepreneur first understand what is culture, and second, define what is culture?
Right. Okay.
For their own organization.
For their own organization. I think a lot of it comes from the heart. I'm going. Each one of us is about a story.
Correct.
Right? Our lives is a story. Our life is our experiences which have made us till now.
Yeah.
So that is what actually lands up determining the culture of the organization. Unfortunately, sometimes if our experiences have not been too good, that also gets reflected in the culture of the organization. So it's important to be able to see the goodness and the abundance which is available around us and to take those things and really build them up. What is important in your organization? Is it learning? Is it upskilling? Is it be there for each other? making sure that if we have made a commitment to something, we stand by that commitment.
Correct.
So those are the things which actually determine the culture, right? What do we stand for?
Correct.
And I think it goes back a lot to what, when Simon Sinek talks about what's the why? Why do you do what you do? What's that driving passion?
Correct.
And I think each person's driving passion helps set the culture and I'm talking from the small size of an entrepreneur. It's that which makes it. Now, if a person really is thinking of scaling up, going big, they have to set processes into place.
Correct.
And they have to set structure into place.
Correct. So, one of the challenges I have often seen entrepreneurs do, and I'm a CEO coach also, a lot of startup entrepreneurs define a different set of rules for themselves.
Yes.
And a different set of rules for the people who work
for them.
And then I've often told them, I said, if you want your colleagues to come at 9 a.m., you need to be there at 10 minutes to 9, rather than say, I'm the owner and I'll come at 11.
Right.
What are your thoughts on how important it is for an entrepreneur to have the same set of rules?
You got to walk the talk. You
Okay.
have to walk the talk.
Okay.
Because you lead by example. Especially as an entrepreneur, they have to see that you are truly passionate about your own organization.
Correct.
If they don't see that passion, they're not going to be able to, follow you for that, right? So it all depends on what they see you doing. And when they see that drive and that passion in you, it's going to come back. I mean, they're going to do that. They're going to follow you.
Wonderful. And your next comment was on people. One of the biggest struggles every entrepreneur has, how do I get the right people? I can't afford them.
You can't afford them. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Identifying the right people, being able to find those right people. And sometimes what also happens is we find the right people, but we don't use their strengths well. And we put them into jobs which may not really be the best for them. So actually understanding the strengths of people becomes very important.
Okay.
And one of the ways in which I think BNI also helps entrepreneurs is we help them with giving them those resources which they can't afford.
Correct.
Because you have people around you who can help you with various challenges you're facing, right? So that again becomes one of the backbones.
So you mean for a young entrepreneur, if he or she is a member of BNI, they can have access to someone who's a great CFO and someone who's a great marketing person, etc.
Yes. I mean, of course, you're taking their business from them, but sometimes you also get a lot of coaching and mentoring, right? And you're seeing people around you who've probably already been through that journey, and you can learn from their mistakes. And that's the amazing thing that we find, that people are ready to share.
Correct.
People are ready to help. But in today's day and age, people hesitate to ask.
Correct.
So here we have the option that you can actually ask for help and you're going to get it. We feel our lives are a story. Our business journey is our story. We've actually also said BNI is a story for you. What are you doing? What is it creating? And together we started compiling, let's say, stories from members of how they received help when they needed it, how somebody reached out to them, how somebody did something for them without expecting anything in return. And we compiled 100 of these stories into what we call our 1,000 stories of change. So we ultimately are going to have 1,000 plus stories. At the moment, our first volume came out, which has got 100 of these stories of how people have gone above and beyond to help somebody else.
Incredible.
Which is something that you feel in this day and age that nobody's going to come forward and help you.
Correct.
But people are ready to help.
People are ready to help. I agree.
The world is a beautiful place.
I agree with you.
And you just have to ask.
I agree. So Arti, let me ask you a couple of questions on coaching. And they're more generic questions.
Okay.
Coaching has been something which has been prevalent for millennia, I would imagine, because someone are coaches.
Right.
But in the corporate or startup world, it's become a little more prevalent in the western part of the world in the last 25, 30 years.
Absolutely.
In India, suddenly I find people wanting to get more coaches, and I suddenly see many more people who want to coach.
Yes, yes.
What is changing in our country?
I think it's, again, people reaching out for help because they know that it's a very long journey if you have to do it alone. And if you can have somebody who can sort of just push in the right direction, keep you focused towards that direction,
Correct.
it's going to make a lot of difference.
Correct.
And, you know, the coaching has really grown. I think in the past 10 years, I have seen it really come up. When I did my coach certification thing, and it was not available in India. I had to do my certifications in the US. And today I find that it's possible.
Yeah.
And I know so many people who've succeeded
Correct.
because of, having a great coach.
Absolutely.
They keep you on track.
Yeah. And are a great mirror.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I truly believe that coaching is something very important for an entrepreneur. They have to figure out the right person, and it is going to help them reach their goal.
Wonderful.
We still have our coaches. I still have my coaches. I
Yeah.
need them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you need to bounce ideas off
Correct.
them.
Correct. I agree. So moving on, you spoke about a little bit about gender balance, about how, you've got 25-30% of members
Right.
of BNI who are
Yeah.
women. Gender balance is suddenly being talked about much more in India than it was 8-10 years ago. What are your thoughts on gender balance in the corporate world? And what do you think we can do to expedite the balance?
I think our society is opening up far more in
Correct.
India now.
Correct.
We were a little more restricted earlier. Everybody didn't have that freedom to step out. We do now. And women are now ready to take that stand and step
Absolutely.
out. And it's no longer about just doing it when you're young. It doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter anymore.
Absolutely.
That's another fantastic thing about the times we're living in right now. Age doesn't matter. You can get out there and do what you want to do.
Correct.
We have a lot of systems now in place which are there to support women. And of course, one of the biggest ones that we had through the millennia always was our joint families. But now it's a fact that everybody's ready to get out,
Correct.
step out and work. And, both, let's say, men and women are ready to take on any roles. There are no more boundaries.
No defining.
Yeah, that you can only do this and you can only do this. So there's a lot more freedom to be yourself.
And Government of India has now mandated that board must have a certain percentage.
Yes.
Do you think a lot of this is lip service that companies are offering, or do you think it's genuinely beginning to happen?
I think it's genuinely beginning to happen. Maybe the percentage needs to grow a little more, but look, the change is coming. Look at that fantastic, the
army?
The army,
Yeah,
yes.
I agree.
It's great.
I
People are ready to accept it.
I agree.
Yeah.
So let me move on. I've got a few questions for you personally.
Okay.
Okay. And my first question to you is that, you had a very successful career, and as you said, got married early and then got into tea gardens and everything else. Over the years, have you had any individuals who've had a strong influence on you? And if yes, what have you learned from them?
Okay. I think the strongest influence comes from our parents
Correct.
when we were young. And one of the things we had in our family was my brother and I were always treated as equals. Absolutely. There was never any bias.
Correct.
Right? So that was imbibed in us right from the start. I went to boarding school, Wellams, and again, there was never any question of we are less than anybody else, right? So my parents had a very strong influence, but I think if I right now look back at my life and see the one person who's had the biggest impact, I think it would actually be my husband.
Okay.
Yes. And it's because we've spent a lot of time together, we've grown together.
Yeah.
But more than that, we actually had a very life challenging situation about 15 years back. And anybody else might have given up. But what Rakesh did and how he showed to the world that it doesn't, I mean, nobody can say your end has come till you decide what it's going to be like. And he showed me the path that it's possible to live life on your own terms, no matter what happens.
Correct.
And you just do it with that purpose and you can achieve it. And one of the persons who actually pushed me to be what I am today is him.
Okay.
So if I say impact, definitely.
Wonderful.
And I'd also like to thank my children because they push me a lot.
Very good. Very good. So my next question is, what would be 3 words that define Arti?
3 words that define Arti: abundance, love, and a strange one. I think I'm catalyst.
Okay.
Because I have found that many times in my life, I've just been there at the right place to help other people achieve what they needed to achieve. So I consider myself a catalyst.
Fantastic. And I guess BNI should be happy to have you there as a catalyst.
Yes,
I mean, you built this whole thing in the city.
In the city, yes. And at the moment, I do appreciate all the work that we put in. We get recognized for it. I mean, I'm doing a lot of roles across BNI, not only in India, but also in the global part of the organization. And it gives a lot of satisfaction to see others succeed.
Wonderful, wonderful. So my next question to you is on failure. I ask this question from every guest for 2 reasons. One is that I'm writing a book on failure.
Okay.
But more importantly, in our country, we don't teach our children that it's okay to fail.
Yes.
And that manifests itself in our behavior patterns on roads. My car must be right in front. An aircraft full of Indians lands. There's only one exit, but everyone must get out first, etc., etc. Based on all your experience and everything that you've seen, what have been some of your learnings or from your mistakes or your failures?
So I think, one, we shouldn't just see them as failures. We have to see them as a learning point. And I'm not saying this in a cliched way, but it has just become like that for me in my life, that you have things which happen and they stop you in your tracks, but then you realize, you know what, if I'd done that this way, we wouldn't have reached this situation. And I've learned from that. And every time something like this happens, now I just take a step back. I think about what has happened. And I say, okay, how would I have handled this differently?
Correct.
And what could have been the possible result? And for me, that has helped me sort of step forward and not get pulled into just living in the past.
Wonderful. So my last question to you, do you have any regrets?
No, I think I've had a beautiful life.
Wonderful. Never look back, always except to learn.
Life is wonderful. Life is beautiful. Every moment of it teaches you something new. So no regrets.
Wonderful. Arti, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for The Brand Called You. Thank you and see you next week.